Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry.
Please can I welcome everyone to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee taking place in the Waltham Suite at Winchester Guildhall. The time is nearly 10 o'clock. My name is Councillor David McLean, Chairperson and Chairman of this particular Licensing Subcommittee. Please can I advise that all open parts of the meeting are being audio recorded. Did we mention live stream?
Unfortunately, not live stream, just audio recorded today.
From the website. In addition, a video recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the Council's YouTube channel after the meeting. Please can I remind everyone joining virtually to turn off their cameras and mute their microphones until invited to speak. Please can I also remind members to speak clearly and remember to use your microphone. Finally, please can I ask everyone to ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are on silent or switched off. Now we'll move on to the agenda and the procedure for this meeting. Item 1 is disclosures of interests. Do members or officers have any interests they wish to declare? No. And now we'll move on to the agenda. So if I now move on, just turn my phone to mute. Chairman's guidance. Well, the hearings and regulations require that the hearing should take the form of a discussion led by the subcommittee. That cross-examination will not normally be allowed. We will be following the adopted procedure for these hearings, which is set out in the reverse of the agenda paper. Each party will be allowed equal maximum time to exercise their rights of the hearing. I will exercise my discretion to allow additional time if necessary, taking into account the requirement to allow all parties equal maximum time. Only those points contained in the written representations, the report and the supplementary documents can be raised. No new evidence can be considered except with the agreement of all parties. Ensure the applicant for the review is seated at the table they are. Other responsible authorities will normally be at the table should they be here, but they are not. Any other persons will normally remain in the public gallery and come to the table to speak. Get around to that in a minute. Introduce yourself and fellow councillors. We have with us myself, Councillors Green and Westwood, who will be on the subcommittee today. And now can I ask the officers and representatives around the table to introduce themselves.
Nathan Mounty, Solicitor for Winchester City Council.
Bryony Appletry, Interim Licensing Manager at Winchester City Council.
Claire Buchanan, Democratic Services Officer, minute in the meeting.
Thank you. The subcommittee has read all the written comments of the application for review, which are included in the report. I understand that the following persons wish to address the subcommittee. We have Phil Tidridge, Sue Hitchin and Councillor Paula Ferguson. Right, we can only consider issues relating to the 4 licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, protection of children. The subcommittee will also have regard to the national guidance and the council's licensing policy. The licensing manager officer will introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application to review the premises licence in effect at Lawn Falls Recreation Ground in Winchester, specifically for the Foodies Festival. So this event took place for the first time in Winchester between the 16th and 18th of July last year. The application has been made by Mr. Philip Tidridge on behalf of Environmental Protection, which is a responsible authority under the Licensing Act 2003. The application relates to the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective and proposes the imposition of conditions to prevent public nuisance. The full application can be seen at Appendix 1 to your report, which is pages 13 to 21. Please note that Mr. Tidridge has provided documents that he may refer to during the hearing today, and they are in Appendix 4, so that's page 41 onwards. We've not received any representations from other responsible authorities. We have received representations from 4 other persons, all of which are in support of Mr. Cttee's application, and these can be seen at Appendix 2. Members are reminded that those addressing the subcommittee may only refer to matters relating to the full licensing objectives, and the subcommittee's options for determination of this application can be seen on page 8 of the report. And I welcome any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No, thank you very much. Item 4 now is the applicant for review or representative may address the subcommittee. Bill.
Thank you, Chair. If please hear, I'll be fairly brief, as I feel the whole gist of my representation is available to you in the paperwork you've already read. But a quick summary, as has been pointed out, this representation is mainly relating to the licensing objective of prevention of public nuisance. It relates to the Foodies Festival, which took place first time last year on the 16th and 18th of July. We were in dialogue with the Foodie Festival prior to that event and the granting of their premises licence. So it is fair to say we were aware of the type of event it was, and there would be some music. So it wasn't, as has been suggested, covert music taking place. However, following the event, which we did not attend due to the fact there are many such events, and there's this thing called COVID going around, which made it very difficult. We received quite a few complaints, 8 complaints in total regarding the event. The complaints as received, suitably redacted, are in Appendix 4, which you would have had the opportunity to read. So you can see the sort of flavour of the issues. And you can make your own view on them, but my opinion was the main concern was the fact that there was 3 days and 3 evenings of music. People didn't seem, in their view, to be advised of this, and there was also some issues with the fact that council owned the land and some criticism of the council, therefore allowing, as it would seem, this event to take place. The latter of which is obviously outside of this consideration of today. So they're all there suitably for you to read, so I don't need to really surmise those. You can see that generally also I believe there were other complaints to local councillors, and in fact the MP also contacted the council regarding the matter. We therefore conducted an investigation as to what had taken place, and the chain of that investigation has been provided in the emails in the main text of the document for you, so you can see exactly what was asked, what was said and what was established. I think to surmise, what we established is there were some failures to meet the premises licence requirements, and that related to some of the conditions in the PN 1, 2, 3 and 4 of the licence as it stands at the moment. Again, I've detailed those non-compliances. We conducted that investigation with the cooperation of the premises holder, who's present today, and at no time were they obstructive, so they were compliant in that. It is my conclusion that there were some failures to meet that premises licence. There are concerns about the volume of music that is generated for those 3 days, and therefore we took the view to call this premises licensing for review. At this stage, what I've said to yourselves is that what we're seeking is, as a minimum, and obviously it's for you to decide on the final outcome, but as a minimum, we recommended some additional conditions in the premises licence in the PN section, public nuisance section, relating to specifically specifying the noise level in absolute terms. That's unusual for a licence that's a small licence. We normally only require that for the bigger events, but we feel it is proportionate now to say when we have some concerns of the way it was operated, when there were complaints about the music and the volume of the music, we think it's right to actually require absolute specific noise levels to be set within the premises licence. Those then have to be monitored and we can check them. So there's an absolute level rather than before there's just this check the noise levels are okay using your ears. So this will involve the applicant having to employ a noise consultant or a competent person in noise in order to measure and record the noise levels. So there's no dispute what those noise levels were and whether there was compliance or not with those noise levels. We feel like as a minimum that will provide added protection to the local public, who will now know exactly what the noise levels cannot be. And they are typical noise levels that we asked of other licensed premises holders with noise levels associated with it, such as the Wickham Festival. And albeit different, Boomtown as well, of course, a much bigger event, but has some similar sorts of noise levels to this. So in conclusion, I'm asking today as a minimum that you give this licence review and you include conditions that I have provided at in my representation, although obviously I respect your right to do as you see fit. I'm happy, therefore, to answer any questions if you need any clarification regarding these matters. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions, please?
Okay, thank you, Jim. Is it appropriate, just clarify first, to ask about the noise levels that you are setting at this point, those conditions? If so, my question is...
Yes, because they're in.
Okay. My question is, from my understanding, what does a dB level of 55 dB actually sound like? What does it mean? Thank you.
It's a fair question. Yes, obviously, it's for you to decide on the conditions and not me. I've made some recommendations which you may choose to ignore or follow as you see fit. But the level of 55 dB, it does become technical. NEEQ, 15 minutes is what it is. To explain in hopefully common speak, an NEEQ is the average noise level over that 15 minutes. It's the volume. If it was a constant state, would represent the same energy as the noise that's occurring. So it's like, if you like, the average. 55 dB is me talking quietly. I've got quite a loud voice. I'm definitely higher than 55 dB, even around the microphone. I'm around the 60, 65. It's not a linear scale. It's a log scale. This is 101 acoustics, I appreciate. So actually 3 dB, 6 dB is doubling. So actually 3 and 6 is quite a significant number. So it's actually, it's not like 50, 110 is double 55, actually 61 is double 55. So a smaller number, even a little bit smaller number, is quite a significant difference in noise. So 55 dB, it is audible. You would hear that. It would be like somebody talking very quietly in your bar. Of course, the other difference is we can't model is it's a different type of music, so it's not conversation, is it? It's that bass as well that does carry a little bit. So that's some of the reason why we put the level quite low, to try and keep the bass level low, because it is a variable noise from beats and basses, so it is very different to a constant noise. So it's the level we ask of other locations. It's not going to mean people aren't going to hear it, but it shouldn't mean particularly inside they're particularly disturbed by it. But yes, it still will be audible, and inevitably there will be some degree of impact. I don't think it will create public nuisance, but we have to acknowledge there is pros and cons of such events, and they inevitably will have some sort of impact.
Okay, thank you. May I ask something, Richard? Yeah, you preempted my second question, really, which was around the bass, because there was a specific reference to the bass noise, and I just want to understand whether there's any restrictions on the bass level that could be in place, and I'm suggesting we should. But is that common or not?
It's possible to do. It's not common. Generally speaking, the documentation that guides this, which is somewhat out of date, doesn't actually have references to that. The only festival where we at the moment have bass as a licensing requirement to monitor the 63 and 125 octaves, the low bass levels, is the Boomtown Festival. And I guess the title's obvious in the name. That's a very different type of music. So generally, we look at the style of music. If we think it's a heavy bass music, and that's the dance and trance and that sort of music, we would say there is an element requiring bass. For other type of music, the bass doesn't tend to dominate. There is obviously still bass component, but it isn't bass heavy in terms of the music generated. They will hear the bass because the bass carries further, just the way acoustics, we all know that it's bass levels that carry, just because of the physics of noise, further than the other types of noise. But we consider that with most events, controlling the absolute noise controls the bass at the same time. It's only when we feel there's a very heavy bass element to the music do we tend to recommend additional control in terms of the bass component having license conditions and numbers associated with it, which makes it difficult to monitor and more problematic. So I don't think it was necessary in this instance. If you disagree with that, we can obviously give you some advice on that for you.
If I may ask you a question, 50, from what you said, it's a conversation sound level, and it's music to entertain. Are they not contradictory in that if it's just
We're sorry, we need it for recording.
Sorry, that's why I did it. I wouldn't be able to hear it 2041. If it's a normal conversation tone, it is quiet. Yeah.
The answer to that is the 55 is not what's put out at the music festival, but what's residual, it's the level at the premises. So it's a level at a person's property. So the way the condition works is, rather than trying to specify an absolute X, Y, and Z monitoring points, because they can vary, the condition says they submit a plan. This is the standard way we go now, with agreed monitoring points, because they have to be places they can go, because they can't go and stand in people's gardens. They don't want them there because they're trespassing. So they have to be representative. So they agree points in the community, not at the premises, that represent community exposure. So that is a community noise exposure level, what they will hear at their house, not the noise level that is kicked out, which would be considerably louder. If it was 55, that wouldn't be operatably acceptable for any sort of festival, if that's the level of noise they're kicking out at the desk.
Okay, and the other question I have is, how do you police? Because this is, I didn't go, but it's DJ driven, I would think. How do you police the DJs all of a sudden cranking it up and then taking it back down again, which I've heard them do at festivals?
You can't stop variability of music in the fact that 15 minute is a 15-minute average. Yeah. But the important thing to know, I said to you, it's not a linear scale, it's a log scale. So if you kick out really loud music as a peak for even a short period of time, that weights quite highly the 15-minute average. So even a couple of minutes at 70 decibels and then nothing is going to bring it very close to that level. So it's just because it's the way it works. Even a short period of noisy music is going to feature quite heavily in that average for that 15-minute. But yeah, there is always some variability, and that's why it's an average. If you have an absolute noise level, if somebody banged a drum very hard, you'd be going, oh, that's failed. So yes, there is going to be a variability in the nature of that sort of music. How do we control it? Well, that's up to the applicant to control. At the mixing desk, they will always have a noise level that they're looking for. What they would be expected to do is do some tests out in the community, measure the sort of level they get there, and say that's what I've got to meet. What does that equate to at the desk? And then you need to keep it to that level at the desk. They're also obliged to have people out doing the monitoring if we follow these conditions, and checking that is actually working. And if it's not, it's turn it down at the desk. And we can always, as well, the other advantage, we would probably look, if resources allow, for us to do our own checks on that as well. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, please, feel free.
Okay, thank you. Could I just ask about monitoring? were deeper. So I understand the monitoring, I understand about the noise level away from the site and so on, so that's fine. Is this proactive monitoring so that should the level be above 55 in 50-minute period, that would be relayed back to the event organisers so that they could react to it? Or is it after the event? In other words, you come along there at the end of the night and go, you were over?
Very much the former. The idea is to prevent, not punish, a problem. So, in fact, even in the 15-minute reading, after 5 minutes of that 15 minutes, you get an idea there's going to be a problem. So you can even bring it down before that 15 minutes. And that's quite common, actually, from some of the festival organisers. Their competent person doing the monitoring will have to be out there doing that monitoring, and we'd expect them to be in contact with the mixing desk side of things to say, you've got a problem, you're about to get a problem, get that music level down. So yes, it's the idea is not to accumulate data to prosecute, it's to control, to prevent a problem and prevent public nuisance occurring. So and we can do our own checks, and we wouldn't again just hold on to those and surprise them 3 days later with our results. We would be looking to interact with the organiser at that point, saying we think you have a problem. What are you going to do about it?
No, that's fine. I'll see it fully. Thank you.
Thank you. As we've got none of this responsible statutory authorities, it's now, dare I say, any other person if you have to make your presentation. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking today on behalf of my fellow councillors, Councillor Kathleen Becker and Councillor John Tippett Cooper. We are the 3 ward councillors for St Bartholomew Ward, which is where North Hall sits, which is where this festival took place and would take place this year. During the weekend of the Foodies Festival in 2021, residents on all sides of North Hall's recreation ground, including residents in Hyde, on the Worthy Road, on the edge of Abbots Barton, which is beyond Hyde, on Wales Street, on Park Avenue, were all adversely affected by the loud music emanating from the festival. Many residents complained to me directly and to my fellow ward councillors. They wrote to us, as they did indeed write to Environmental Health. They were complaining about the constant noise from the sound systems that they felt was far too loud. These are many people who have young families. They talked to us about music pulsating in their gardens. So it wasn't a residual quiet noise, it was a pulsating sound. They were also frustrated that despite a promise that we were told, which we passed on to them, they didn't receive any notification of the festival from the festival organisers, nor were they given the means to contact the festival organisers during the event should they need to. Even as ward councillors, we were not contacted or given a number that we could use to contact the organisers on their behalf. So we were made impotent, and there were lots of complaints during that weekend. Residents felt that the sound system and the music was too loud. And they also said it was almost constant during the 3 days of the festival, and to them it went on too late in the evening. I note the licence is until 9 p.m, but again, if you have young children, 9 p.m. is way beyond bedtime, so lots of those young children couldn't get to sleep. Residents questioned why the festival, which was meant to be mainly about food, seemed to them to have turned into a music festival. There is another festival that happens quite a bit later in the summer, a few weeks later. It's called the Cttee Festival. It also has some music, but I received no complaints for that festival. So there is a disparity going on here. All of these issues around the noise caused a public nuisance. There were other complaints about traffic management, littering, posters not being taken down, but fundamentally the issue for my residents was about the music. North Falls Recreation Ground is a relatively small area in the heart of a residential area. Many homes in Hyde are right next to the park, and these were particularly adversely affected by the noise. We support Mr. Judge's application, environmental health application, to review the licence, but we are still concerned that this will not be enough to protect residents from the public nuisance this time round. I would urge that conditions within the licence are changed and tightened to prevent the public nuisance reoccurring. However, in addition, as ward councillors, we would like to ask that specific restrictions be placed on when and how loudly the music can be played and for how long, so it's not that constant pulsating sound. That all the residents in the surrounding area, including those in Wales Street, Park Avenue and all the streets in Hyde between North Falls Recreation Ground and the Worthy Road, are notified of the festival in writing and given a hotline number which will be responded to should residents need to call. It's no good being given a number if nobody then picks up. That the organisers be required to ensure that they take all steps to mitigate against this and the other issues I've raised about traffic management and the advertisement, etc. And that there is a greater emphasis that this is a food festival, not a music festival. Residents like festivals, but this one caused a great deal of concern among local residents. And the amount of emails, conversations on the street, that there was definitely a public nuisance. And what I wouldn't want to do is to lose the goodwill of the residents around North Falls Recreation Park because this particular festival isn't being managed properly. Thank you. I'm happy to offer any more assistance if I can.
Thank you. No, I've just got one for you. You talk about communications, I think, so contact and direct lines, which I don't think are licensing conditions, are they?
So to clarify, Chair, there is a condition on the licence that this is a current condition, not one proposed by Mr. Tidridge today, that does require the licence holder to make a hotline number available to local residents. And that was neither provided to the licensing authority or, as it seems from Councillor Ferguson's representation today.
So previously it was a condition, but there was nothing fulfilling that condition. Just
correct. So the condition was not complied.
Super. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair.
We now need to go to the applicant for review. If you could fire it up. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. The license.
Oops.
Pencil.
Mrs. Hitchin, are you there?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Hi, hello. If you would like to make your presentation.
Yes, good morning. So I'm the Managing Director of Foodies Festival. I'd like to start, please, by thanking the committee for allowing me to have a virtual meeting with you rather than being there in person. Foodies Festival, under my guidance and being Managing Director of the company, has been established for 17 years. We successfully run festivals all around the country, and our festivals are food festivals. So the priority is to celebrate good quality food in each region. The festival comprises a local producers market, a chef's theatre where we invite local chefs to take part in the chef's theatre and cook their signature recipe. We have a cake and desserts theatre. We have a kids cookery theatre where children are invited to learn to cook. We have a big shopping village where we focus on local good quality food and drink. And we also have a street food area and a feasting area where visitors are invited to come and eat and enjoy good quality local food. So I just wanted to explain that this is definitely a food festival. We do have a music stage. The music is mainly acoustic during the day, and then we have some bands playing in the evening. The bands generally play up until about 8 o'clock, and then the festival closes at 9. So although the licence last year allowed us to run until 9, the last band on last year was actually on at around 7 o'clock. In advance of the festival, we door dropped residents in local roads as agreed under condition of the licence, and we do this at all of our events because we want to make sure that we're invited by the council to come back year on year. So we produced a letter which has been sent through, which explains that we're building up the festival, explains that the festival is happening, and it also gives my personal mobile number because I want to make sure that I am contacted during the event if there are any problems or any complaints. We door dropped addresses in Nuns Road, Birinus Road, Monks Road, King Alfred Place, and we invited residents to actually attend the festival free of charge to make sure that they were able to experience the festival and to enjoy the festival. A number of residents brought the letter in with them and were allowed to gain free entry. At no stage during the festival did I receive complaints on my mobile number. What I've learned since sending the letter out is that it would be Winchester Council's preference that we actually have a separate direct line number rather than a mobile number. And I'm very happy to set that up for this year. I had always put my mobile number on it because I'm always there from the build up to the last day. And so I thought that it was a more direct line of communication, but this year we would be happy to put a mobile number on it. The event was very successful. I have to say that it was the first event to run after lockdown, and I do feel that residents would have been very unused at that stage to hearing any noise in their local area. We employed a professional sound engineer. We kept sound recordings at the desk. In advance of the festival, we had agreed with the licensing department that our site manager would every hour check the noise levels around the park adjacent to the site and the surrounding areas. It was agreed that the noise check would be by ear, and he went out and checked the noise levels and didn't feel that the noise levels were he could basically speak to somebody and the noise levels didn't interfere with being able to have conversations. So we felt that the noise level was okay. The music is very family friendly. As I've said, we start off with acoustic and then have some bands. We actually worked with the organiser of Winchester and invited some of the bands along that generally play in the park. And there was no rock music, so I don't think that there was any problem with bass noise, and you know it wasn't the sort of music that would be associated with a rock or heavy metal festival. It was very family friendly. The feedback that we had at the front door was that residents and visitors really enjoyed the festival. They enjoyed that we had invited local producers to take part. Certainly the chefs that took part felt that it was a very useful experience for them to be able to demo in front of a big audience. And we really want to build on the festival year on year and make sure that we're invited by residents and council to come back year on year, because at most of our events, and having said that we've been established for 17 years, you know, we do want to make sure that we're invited year on year to come back and that we're welcomed by everyone in the community. I'm just checking my notes, sorry, if there's any more points. Just to say that I have been in communication with Phil regularly over the last few months to make sure that if there are situations that we can improve on in terms of the noise level, that we work with him to do so. And the conditions that he has put forward, I'm very happy to comply with. And we would be making sure that we worked with the sound engineer desk and with the noise consultant to be very proactive and to make sure that if, you know, that the noise levels were kept within the limits agreed, and that we made sure that residents were kept entirely happy, because we want to make sure that we have a good reputation in Winchester and that we're invited back year on year.
Was there anything else, or was that the end of your statement?
I also wanted to just respond to Councillor and just say that we have a litter team that works throughout the festival, and we're always recommended for the fact that we leave all of the area clean. We have 5 litter pickers that work from the first day through to the last day of the festival, and they litter pick not only North Walls Recreation Ground, the surrounding area. We employed a waste management company with full recycling, and so you know, we do take waste management and litter picking very seriously. We also employed a full security team with traffic management to make sure that the traffic management is smooth. I have to say that moving forward, we would put more information on our website about parking opportunities, because I do think that we need to find more local parking for people attending the festival, that they don't try and get to the festival by car. We obviously encourage people to come by local transport, and you know, the train station is within walking distance, but we've up our traffic management team to make sure that residents with people driving down their streets were not bothered by visitors attending the festival. So, you know, we want to work with residents and with councillors, with the council, to make sure that we're invited year on year.
Thank you very much. Councillors, questions? Councillor Green.
Yeah, it's sort of a three questions I've got here, really. The first part is obviously if the conditions had been set out by the licensing had been followed, we wouldn't be having this review now. So I wonder whether you could tell me why the conditions weren't followed last year. The second part would be, why should we grant the licence again this year for the same festival when, in light of this review? And how can you assure us that you will comply with the conditions that we're going to set today if we set them?
Okay, I'm just getting the conditions in front of me. So in advance of the event, we had meetings with the licensing authority and agreed with them how sound monitoring and noise monitoring would take place. We also sent through a plan of the festival with the stage marked on it, and we at that stage did not know exactly where the sound systems were going to be placed. So that was advice. That was decided when we actually attended on site. So I apologise that the sound system placement wasn't revealed in advance. As far as notifying the council of my mobile number, then that was sent in advance, and so the contact number was advised, and we believed that we had complied with the main conditions, and I apologise if some of the detail was not included in that. As far as moving forward is concerned, we would make sure that the conditions were met. We would work with Phil to employ a noise consultant, and we would make sure that those conditions were met, because we really believe in the festival in Winchester, and we want to make sure that we come back.
Supplementary from Councillor Green.
Yeah, if I may ask Mr. Trillish to come in at the moment, please give us some advice about the music.
Yeah. If you would, Mr. Two.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things from my understanding of the situation that may assist you in discussions with Mr. Hitchin. Our understanding of the non-compliance relates to the fact that there should have been a noise management plan submitted. This noise management plan would have had information such as the location of the sound equipment. In fact, on page 16 of your report, you can see condition PA16 are references 4 things there: A, B, C, D, inventory and location of all sound systems, management command and communication structure, publication and dissemination of information to the public, and actions to be taken by the event organising post-place. That report, that noise management plan, was not submitted to Environmental Health, and I think licensing confirmed they were not in receipt of such a plan. So that failure meant we didn't have that information. In relation to the condition on advising of a telephone number, which is PA4, I can confirm when a member of staff chased for this number the day before the event, we were provided with a number. But I have no record of being provided by a telephone number 7 days prior to the event, as required by condition PA4.
Can I just cut in and just ask, was that a mobile number you were advised of, or a landline?
I believe it was a mobile number, but that was on the day before the day of the event. A member of staff requested that information, but we have no record of it being provided to the licensing authority. The licensing authority can probably advise whether that's was the case, but those are the non-compliances that I was aware of. And to clarify, if PN2 had been compliant, we've had more information on the sound systems.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could carry on then and tell us how you. Sorry.
Hello. Sorry.
Yeah, if you could just tell us how then that you are going to assure us that the enforcement's. Oh, yeah. I'm going to work this time, please.
Yes. I will. I had notified the mobile number, but in any case, the fact that I now know that a mobile number is not sufficient, we will make sure that a landline number is notified and is manned throughout the weekend. We will widen the scope of the letter jaw drop to make sure that we work with licensing to agree the roads and areas where the door drop will happen. As I say, we did door drop to Nuns Road, Birinus Road, Monks Road and King Alfred Place, but we will build on that to make sure that there is a bigger network in place of the letters going out. We will also produce a noise management plan as per all of the conditions stated, so points A, B, C and D, and we will also comply with the conditions that Bill has put forward to make sure that there is sound monitoring and a sound consultant.
If I may cut in here, I've heard a couple of things you said about doing proposals, putting management plans together and doing all the rest of it. I think those were conditions of the last time round and those things didn't happen. So how are you going to manage things differently to ensure that they do happen this time? Thank you.
Can I just be absolutely frank on this? Basically,
I would hope you would be.
I do apologise for this. We did not receive the licence because it was sent to our registered office rather than our main office. I have discussed this with Phil, and so the licence that was sent through did not arrive at our main office, trading office. It was sent to another address, and so I didn't have these conditions sent through in advance of the festival so that I could comply with those. I didn't want to bring it up earlier, but as we're going into the detail of it, and so the detail of PM2 with the noise management plan, I wasn't aware of those. So we would always comply with all conditions if we had the conditions in advance. And what we did was we complied with the conditions that are normally in place at every other authority that we deal with, which is to do a letter door drop, to do sound monitoring, to produce a floor plan with the stage marked within it, and to make sure that we have a professional sound engineer, and to make sure that we keep residents happy year on year. So as I have told Phil, the reason why we didn't tick all of those boxes is because I didn't have the paper licence sent through in advance of the event received by me. It was sent through to an office and not to my trading address. So I do apologise for that. So,
were we aware of your trading address rather than your registered office, or should I ask Bryony then?
yes, you were aware because it's on all of the footers of my emails.
Thank you. Bryony, would you like to go?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just clarify a couple of points, and I will add that I'm a neutral party, and that I'll be providing you with information direct from our database system that we use for processing applications. So I can confirm that 2 addresses were provided on the application form for the premises licence application, and that unless instructed otherwise, we will always send the information to the registered address. And we received no such instruction, so that's why that has happened. I'll also clarify that the conditions, the public nuisance conditions, were discussed at length by email between the applicant and Mr. Tidridge, and it was actually the applicant that emailed me and as the licensing authority to propose the public nuisance conditions. So I would dispute the fact that the applicant and current licence holder would not be aware of the conditions when I have correspondence to evidence that it was actually them that proposed them. I don't believe I am allowed to provide documents in evidence because I am not the applicant or licence holder, but with legal advice, Mr. Tidridge may, if he wished, choose to submit the 2 emails in front of me demonstrating the facts that I have just.
That would have to be agreed between
both parties. Sorry.
So any further evidence submitted to the subcommittee would have to be agreed by all parties, including the licence holder.
Mr. Tidbury.
Yeah, I'm happy for those emails from my perspective to be released with its assistance to you. Obviously, that would have to be agreement with Hitchens as well, as Hitchens as I understand it. However, I can confirm it's my understanding as well that the applicant would be aware of those conditions because the way it works with these things is we often suggest conditions to the applicant at that point and agree what those conditions will be, and they then formally submit them as part of the licensing regime. My understanding is from the emails that was done, so those conditions would have been discussed, emailed and sent to the Hitchens, who would then formally send those to the licensing authority. So that's my understanding. I'm sure the emails would show you that. I'm happy for them to release unless Ms. Hitchens doesn't agree that that's the case.
I think, stop me if I'm wrong somewhat, but this is historical we're discussing. The history we can't change, but we can ensure that the future licensing conditions are met. I'm not letting you off the hook at all, Sue, but I think history is history, and I think lessons have been learned here. If you want this to be an ongoing event, we have to start keeping an eye on the boiling pot here. You've said you're going to do a number of things, but you've assured this committee you're going to do a number of things to make things run in a more successful and smooth fashion. Is there anything anybody else wants to say, or do we? I don't know. No. Yes, Councillor.
Mr. Hitchens, looking at the site plan for the proposed festival this year, I can see where the sound stage is, the direction it's pointing. Do you know whether it's in the same place as last year or if it's changed?
I would put the stage, we're open to changing the position of the stage if it would work better to have the stage facing a different way. So that is something that's open to change. Our initial thoughts would be that it would be better to keep the stage where it is, because it is at the very end of the Falls Recreation Ground. But we're very happy to change position if we think that would reduce the noise levels, and I can work with our sound engineers to ensure that the stage is positioned at the best stage for reducing noise levels.
Yeah, I'm not proposing. Is this working? Yes, I'm not proposing to change it. To change the microphone. Oh, okay. I'm not proposing that you move the position of the stage. I just wanted to know whether it is different in the plan this year to last year, because last year clearly there was an impact of noise. I just wondered whether it was in a different position this year already, or whether it's in the same position as it was last year. That's all.
So I was waiting for the result of this meeting before we assess the stage position, but we can tilt the stage to make sure that it's not facing in the same direction.
And then I'm very happy with that. So, and I will leave it to the people that are organising the event to get the stage in the right place.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. That's our questions over. Thank you very much for your presentation. If you go back onto mute.
Mrs. Hitchen, if you can mute your microphone and your camera, please.
Yes, I just raised my hand actually. Is it possible for me to make one more point?
Yes, go There's a bit of fairness.
Thank you. I just wanted to say for the record that we did submit a full event management plan to the licensing authority within the timescale specified, and within, sorry, I've just been passed a note on this, within the event management plan, there is a noise management plan. So the event management plan that was sent through to licensing does contain a noise management plan. So I do believe that we did submit a noise management plan as part of the big documentation that we sent through. It is an event management plan and it has 12 appendices. And I do believe that a noise management plan was submitted. So I can send that through after the licensing committee to show what was submitted so that Phil has a chance to have a look at that. But it is a standard part of our documentation, which is sent through by our health and safety team.
Thank you. Do you then consider, as you've asked another ISHL, do you then consider that management plan was adhered to fully?
Yes, I do actually. Sorry, I've just had to look at this condition and my health and safety person has just said that he did submit the noise management plan as part of the event management plan because it is one of our main appendices and obviously something that we need to address as part of the event plan at all locations.
Thank you very much. If you go on to mute now, please. Thank you, Scott. Does that happen?
Yes.
Right. We go on now to the subcommittee will retire to consider the application in private with only the head of legal services representative, the committee administrator and the councillors to discuss. Thank you, members.
you want me to call her forward? Mrs. Hitchin, we're about to give the decision. If you could come back. Right, just let me get it off. I know, just come back. There she is.
Hello again.
Hello.
In reaching the decision, the subcommittee has carefully considered the application for review. Representations made by the responsible authorities, other persons in the premises licence holder. It has taken into account the council's statement of licensing policy, Home Office guidance issued under section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, duties under the Crime and Disorder Act 1998 and the rights set out in the Human Rights Act 1998. The subcommittee has concluded that the premises licence should be amended as follows. Condition PN2C bracket relating to dissemination of information to the public to be amended to add the wording in an area agreed with the licensing authority at the end of the condition. To include the additional conditions PN5 to PN7 as per Phil Tidgeridge's suggestion. They are PN5. All noise levels from music shall not exceed 55 dBL A cats, small EQ 15 minutes, at monitoring stations agreed in writing with the local authority. PN6 states the monitoring location shall be agreed in writing with the licensing authority no later than 28 days before any event commences. These conditions shall be representative of the noise levels experienced at the nearest domestic premises and shall be measured in free field conditions in the absence of other significant local noise sources. PN7 states the premises licence holder shall appoint a competent noise consultant to monitor and record on-site and off-site music noise throughout the event to ensure compliance with noise levels required under PN5. All monitoring performed shall be made available to the licensing authority upon request. Such records shall be kept for a minimum of 3 months after any event finishes. For the following reasons, the subcommittee found the evidence provided by Philip Tidgeridge to be credible. Points of particular concern to the committee were partial non-compliance with conditions PN1 to PN4 of the current licence, limited distribution of letters to residents providing the emergency telephone number for complaints, limited extent of sound monitoring, lack of records regarding noise monitoring. The subcommittee believes the amended conditions are reasonable, proportionate and sufficient to promote the licensing objective of the prevention of public nuisance. The parties shall formally be notified of the decision in writing shortly. This notification will include details of the right to appeal against this decision to the Magistrates' Court, which must be made within 21 days of the notification. Thank you. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Hitchin. That's the end of the meeting. Thank you. So I'm just going to end the Teams now.
Thank you for attending the meeting.
Thank you.